All right, so here we are in the Pearson Access Next portal. Yours will look exactly like mine, except instead of a brown color, yours will be blue. Make sure it's blue. You definitely do not want to see the brown colored site because this is a training website, not the actual live site. Okay, first thing you want to do before you do anything else, really just double check, make sure you're in spring 2021. Make sure you have your correct school selected. They should be by default, but in the event that you're assigned to different schools, you can just click on it and select, I'll select Bryant, for example. All right, so now that we're here, we're going to find the testing session that we want to begin. So I'm going to go under Testing and click where it says Select an Action, and I'm going to choose Sessions. Now, right here where it says Find Sessions, you're going to type in your first initial and your last name, right? I have all of your sessions typed under your first initial and your last name, and then the grade, and then either an E for ELA test or an M for math test, right? For this example, I have one named Test, so I'm just going to type in Test, but you will type in your first initial and your last name, and then you'll see two tests pop up, right? So when I click search under test, I see just this one test, right? But you will have two under your name. One will have an E at the end, one will have an M at the end. One's for ELA, one's for math, right? So you're going to select the session that you want. So I'm going to click on the session that I want to begin a test in, and I'm going to go to, now that it's selected, and I know it's selected because it's blue, I'll go to Students in Sessions. All right, and you see nothing down here with the students because I haven't actually selected the test. So here is the list of sessions that I want to begin, and I just have the one here. And then you can see down here, I have the list of students. Now, of course, you're going to have a list of your entire homeroom or the small group that you're testing. If you're testing in small groups, you'll have a list of the students in that test session. For the sake of this example, I only have one student in this test session, right? You will, of course, have more. Okay, so at this point, you could go ahead and distribute your testing tickets. Your students can even log in on their end using their username and password. Now I'll quickly show you what that looks like here. So your students will each get one of these testing tickets. You can see that this is for the demo here, the new student, right? Has their grade level, which test it is, because there's different test tickets for each of the different ELA and math. And then down here is the important bit. That's where they have their username, which will unfortunately be a long string of numbers, and the password, which is again a string of letters and numbers. So the first thing to do is not if, but when your students say that theirs isn't working, there's a very high chance that they just typed this incorrectly, right? So make sure that they if they need to delete what they have there and type it again very carefully, that should be the first troubleshooting step. If they say it doesn't work, it's almost always that they typed either the username or the password incorrectly. Okay, so once the students do that, you can go ahead and click Start Session. Now that's going to bring you up to this screen. The students still can't actually start because you notice that the tests are actually still locked, right? So you have the little padlock here. This one is locked, and then over to the right is unlocked. So when your students are logged in, and they'll see a screen that tells them what tests are available to them, but they're not going to be able to click on them until you unlock them. So you can have everybody logged into their tests, right? You can be giving the instructions, making sure everybody is ready to begin, and then you can say, all right, now you can begin, and you can flip. This is Unit 1, so let's assume that they are taking ELA Unit 1 test today. You can just click on this and toggle it over to unlocked, right? So I had to literally drag that from locked over to unlocked. Now, nothing really looks different here, but for your students, they have a little button on their screen that says refresh. The students can refresh their screens and they will have a blue start button, right? So once you unlock it, the students will refresh. There's a button, it says refresh, and then the test that you just unlocked, in this case GR3 ELA Unit 1, will then turn blue with a button that says start. So they can click that button, and I'm about to do that. And so what I want you to do is I want you to pay attention to what happens down here under Grade 3 ELA Unit 1. When I click the blue Start button, and by the way, I'm working on a Chromebook separately here, so I'm about to click the Start button as a student, and I want you to pay attention to what happens here. It's loading. All right, so I clicked the Start button, so now I'm going to click this Refresh. Now notice that just changed, right? That changed, and that is active. So the student is now active in the test, but they haven't actually started working on it, right? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to click a button on the student side. I know you can't see this, but on the student's Chromebook that I have over here, I'm going to click Start. Right, and now I am actively working in the test as this student. Right, and you can see that I'm actively working. Now, what I'm going to do is on this Chromebook, this student Chromebook that I'm working with here, is I'm going to kick myself out, right? I'm going to accidentally sign out, or maybe I can close the Chromebook to simulate, my battery dying or something. It's not super common that this happens, right? But in the event that it happens, let me just demonstrate to you how that might look. So I'm going going over to the Chromebook, I'm going to accidentally sign out of my test. Okay, so you can see what happened there as soon as I accidentally signed out on the Chromebook. This turned red down here. And again, imagine that you have an entire list of students testing. You're going to have, most of your students are going to be green. So you want to, as you're testing, be browsing through your student list and make sure that you're not seeing any red, right? Everything should be either green, or once they finish, you'll have blue, right? Or you'll have students who are absent that will remain gray for ready because they have not even begun theirs, right? But anything that's red or even orange, right, should be getting your attention. So what you want to do in this case is have the student go back to the home screen of TestNav where it says TestNav Illinois and then asks for their username and password because they're going to have to sign in again. But before they do that, right, you're going to click here next to the student's name, and you're going to click on this arrow next to exited, and you're going to click resume. All right, so at this point, you can see that it's turned orange. It's telling you that, okay, you have given permission for this student to begin to resume the test, but they have not yet resumed, right? They're still orange. They're kind of in this limbo. So what I'm going to do is, again, as the student, now you can say, all right, use your test ticket and sign back into the test. So I'm going to go back to my test ticket here and sign back in. Okay, so I've signed back in, right? Now, on the student's test, they will see the same buttons they saw before. It says Grade 3 ELA Literacy, Unit 1, and then there's a blue button that says Resume, right? So they're going to click Resume. And it's loading. All right, and so once it's loaded, now on my end here, I'm going to refresh, and I should hopefully have it green again that they are active. And it is. Super. So that's basically what you'll do, right? If a student gets accidentally kicked out, you're going to go down here, right? And it'll say either resume or resume upload. Click one of those options. It depends on how they accidentally get kicked out, that it may say resume or resume upload. So you'll choose one of those, and then the student signs back in, right, to resume the test, and it should be green again. So again, green is good. Blue is good if they have finished and submitted their test. Exited, bad. Resumed means that they exited and you resumed them, but they have not actually clicked and gone back into the test and started working. So orange also means not so good. It means go back and go over to that student and check on them and see why they haven't yet gotten back to active and working on that test. The other issue that you will face is this is not like, say, the MAP test where the students is just done and they can close their computer. They do have to submit the test at the end. It's going to say, are you sure you want to submit all of your test answers? And they have to submit that they are completed and they want to submit all of their answers, right? So if the student accidentally leaves, the test before having done that, then they are not going to get this turn blue, right? You're going to have red for exited when they close their laptop or whatever it is that they do. It needs to be blue. So do not finish a test session. When you are all done, you're wrapping up, right? Your time is about to expire, and you're going through your list here. You're making sure you're ready to lock back up. Do not lock it back up if you have people that are red, right? You do not want people that are red in the test still. You need to make sure that if they are, they didn't submit. That means that you need to go through this and click resume, and the student needs to log back in, and then they need to submit their answers. And when they do that and you refresh, then it will turn blue. So when you're done, everybody should be blue, unless they are absent, in which case it will still be gray. Or in the very unlikely event, and hopefully we don't have very many cases of this at all, but if a student becomes very ill during a class or some other emergency where they have to leave mid-test, but that will hopefully be a very rare instance, right? You should only have, if a student is absent, it will remain gray. Otherwise, everybody should be blue on the unit once you finish that test. Okay, once the test is finished, right, and let's assume that this one is blue right now, then I would go ahead and I would lock back that test, right, for the day. And then the next day, right, I would just unlock unit 2. Do not click stop session. Do not click stop session, right? It probably won't even let you. Look, it gives me an error, right? But we're not stopping the session. Do not try to stop them. Even after unit 2, do not stop the sessions, right? I'll stop sessions when everybody is done, right? When all the absent students have had a chance to retest and all of that. So do not stop sessions, only lock and unlock them. When you are ready to test, unlock. When you are done testing for the day, lock back up. And that's it. Any questions? Just let me know.